Okay, it's time for your first assignment on Hawks. So remember, when you log into Hawks, learn.hawkslearning.com, the first time you're going to have to create an account. And if you don't already have an account and you haven't purchased Access yet, you can just click on Create Temporary Account. Okay, so we want you to be able to get going right away, even if you haven't purchased the Access code yet. And there are three modes here. Learn, remember that's your textbook, practice, and certify. We're going to start in practice mode, but you only get credit for doing the certify. Okay? All right, so you got 12 questions here. Some of these questions have multiple steps. If I were you, have your paper in front of you, your notebook, so that you can write down the problems. I'm going to write down y equals negative 3 over 4x plus 2, and then I'm going to write on my paper the what I'm going to go through instead of just trying to hold it all in my head. So determine the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope, if you watch the video, should be the coefficient of x. So negative, I'm going to type the slash line on my keyboard to bring up a fraction, 3, and then I can tab over to the next box, negative 3 over 4, and then the y-intercept is 0, 2. I'm going to just walk you through this problem. Okay, the second step is going to ask me to plot the y-intercept. So I recommend draw a picture on your paper, draw your axes in, plot the points, draw your line, have a straight edge like a ruler with you. So do it on paper and then put it in the computer. So if I already drew it on paper, I'm going to put in my y-intercept. I'm just going to click right there on the graph. And then it's going to ask you to plot another point. So I'm going to use the down 3 over 4. So 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4 to plot the second point on this graph. And then, hold on. Down 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have had it up here. So I can actually just click and move this point up, instead of having to do it all over again. Okay, so that's how the Hawks will graph the line for you. But again, I want you to be able to graph these lines on paper, so make sure you put it on paper first. All right, the next thing that I want to show you is sometimes they give you this big answer box instead of the parentheses to just type in the number for the y-intercept. So if my slope here, in this case it's negative 1, and my y-intercept, don't just type the number 10. You're going to have to put in the parentheses 0, 10 in order for it to take your answer, okay? And then graphing the line just like it did before. So now I'm just going to kind of skip through these problems. A lot of these are slope and y-intercept. This is going to be a lot like that first problem we did, slope and y-intercept, and then graph the line. Find the slope and y-intercept, and then graph the line. Don't forget to put it in slope-intercept form first. It's the easiest way to do that. Solve for y. Okay? All right, and some of these problems are those like horizontal and vertical lines. So you might want to watch the video on that before doing these. All right, and then the rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. Find the slope and y-intercept, graph the line. Find the slope and y-intercept, graph the line. Okay, and now we get to some a little bit different. Find the slope. Here are the 2 points. Find the slope. Don't forget to change in y divided by the change in x. That gives you your slope. All right. And then this one sometimes can be confusing to students. Find 2 points on the line to be graphed. So this is trying to model plotting points like we did in the video. So here you can plug any numbers in for x or y and solve for the other variable. Okay, in this case, if I plug anything in, like the x isn't there, right? So any number that I plug in for x, the only number that will work for y is going to be y plus 6 equals 0. The only number that works for y is negative 6. So in this case, any number that I plug in for x, the corresponding y value has to be negative 6. Now I'm going to plot another point too. It could be any number you like. I used the number 1. You could use the number, I don't know, negative 4. And then whatever you plug in for x for this particular problem, the corresponding y coordinate has to be negative 6. And now, once you plug in those numbers, Hawks is going to graph the line for you. Remember, you want to graph it on paper so that you get those skills. Okay? Let me skip to the next problem. Okay, last problem on this problem set, very similar, but with 2x minus 5 equals 0. So, find 2 points that are going to be on the line, and then Hawks is going to draw the line for you. Make sure you do it on paper.